Theresa May channeled her inner Mrs Thatcher last night as she insisted she will not buckle as Brexit negotiations reach their final phase. She signalled her readiness to walk away from talks unless the deal returns control of laws, borders and money to the UK. It followed suggestions from the EU's chief negotiator Michel Barnier that a deal was ready to be presented to cabinet ministers as early as today. Meanwhile, the furore has triggered memories of a famous speech delivered by Baroness Thatcher in which she was highly critical of what was then known as the European Community. In a fiery speech delivered to the College of Europe in 1988, Mrs Thatcher, who had been Prime Minister for 9 years at the time, made a bold Soviet Union comparison and argued that the financial reforms she introduced in the 1980s would be completely undermined should Britain adopt the European model. She said, "It is ironic that just when those countries such as the Soviet Union, which have tried to run everything from the center, are learning that success depends on dispersing power and decisions away from the center, there are some in the community who seem to want to move in the opposite direction. We have not successfully rolled back the frontiers of the state in Britain, only to see them reimposed at a European level with a European superstate exercising a new dominance from Brussels." Margaret Thatcher delivered a scathing speech in 1988. Image, SG, Getty. "We have not successfully rolled back the frontiers of the state in Britain, only to see them reimposed at a European level." Margaret Thatcher: "Certainly we want to see Europe more united and with a greater sense of common purpose, but it must be in a way which preserves the different traditions, parliamentary powers and sense of national pride in one's own country, for these have been the source of Europe's vitality through the centuries." It came after Jacques Delors, then President of the European Commission, urged Britain's Labour movement to embrace a uniquely European model of society and support a platform of guaranteed social rights. In response, Mrs Thatcher said Europe should focus on competitiveness and deregulation while warning against a European superstate exercising a new dominance from Brussels. Margaret Thatcher made a Soviet Union comparison in her speech. Image, Getty. Margaret Thatcher served as Prime Minister between 1979 and 1990. Image, Getty. She said, "I want to see us work more closely on the things we can do better together than alone. Europe is stronger when we do so, whether it be in trade, in defense or in our relations with the rest of the world, but working more closely together does not require power to be centralized in Brussels or decisions to be taken by an appointed bureaucracy." Just weeks later, she described the community as socialist in the Conservative Party conference, therefore marking a turning point that set Britain on the path to Brexit and established a genuine Tory Eurosceptic wing. Margaret Thatcher was highly critical of John Major's EU policy. Image, Getty. Mrs Thatcher was critical of Britain's relationship with Europe long after leaving office, too. She was furious about Sir John Major's decision to sign the Maastricht Treaty in 1992, saying, "Our trust was not well-founded, we got our fingers burnt. The most silly thing to do when you get your fingers burnt is to bring forward a bigger and worse act, which is the equivalent of putting your head in the fire." Speaking months later in the House of Lords about Maastricht, she added, "I could never have signed this treaty.